Hi guys, so in today's video we're going to be taking a look at painting some motorcycle fairings in 2K gloss. Now one thing that I normally do quite often with 2K gloss is when I've finished the 2 or 3 coats of the gloss, depending on how much the colour needs, then I will go over it with a coat of clear just to give a little bit of added protection to the colour. So we've got the motorbike panels already prepped, they're in the booth. I believe these are off a Kawasaki GPZ, I think. Actually Mick, my business partner for the powder coating side, they're his dad's parts off his bike. So I thought we'd take a little bit of a look at these parts, give you guys a little bit of a walkthrough of what I'm doing as far as the gloss application goes on these, and also give you guys a little bit of an insight into sort of the flash off times and how I'd go about adding the clear coat straight on as soon as we put down the actual colour on the motorbike. And again, don't forget guys to check out our new sponsors over at SP Supplies. These are the same guys that we've been working with now for a few years. They've just moved over to a new place and started up something new, which is bigger and better. The website is brilliant and it's having new items added to it every single day, so keep an eye out on the website for new stuff and get your orders in. So I'm going to start off with prepping these panels one by one. Now I've worked out recently that if I actually start spraying from the extraction side and move them away to the other end of the booth, the jobs end up quite a little bit cleaner. So we'll be using Ford Medina Green, which is a 2K solid colour, so it's a 2K gloss. Now when I'm doing a job like this and I'm going to put a clear coat over it afterwards, I always make sure that I mix my gloss the same as I'm going to mix my clear coat. So I've used the Multimix HS hardener in this 2K gloss, the same as I will in the 2K clear that I'll be using in the second half of the video. Now I don't want to overload this because I'm going to put 2 coats of colour and then I'm going to put a coat of clear down. What I don't want to do is put too much of a build up on. I want 2 nice light wet flat coats that will give me full coverage ideally. Sometimes you might need a third with some colours like maybe a red or something, especially if you've got a couple of little darker primer areas or there's a rub through on an edge somewhere, then you might need to go towards the 3 coats. But one of the biggest keys to this as well is going to be your flash off times. You don't want to be rushing your flash off times, and obviously with the hardener being the same speed throughout the whole 3 stages, so the 2 coats of the gloss and the clear coat at the end, everything should flash off nicely at the same time. So if you put 2 nice light coats down like I'm going to do here, then give it a 10-minute flash off between each coat of 2K gloss, and then give it a 10-minute flash off, say, well, like in my case, I went out after the 2nd coat of gloss, give my gun a quick clean out, I mixed up some of the Multimix 2 HS clear coat, and then came back in, and it had been, I'd say, 10 minutes, and it flashed off nicely. That was an ideal time then to come in and put the 3rd and final coat on these, which was the clear coat. Now, some people think it's a bit strange, but for me, putting a coat of clear coat over direct gloss panels has a lot of advantages. It gives you that little extra bit of protection over the colour. So if you've got something like these where they've got a lot of curves and edges and swage lines and little tricky bits when you come around to polish it, what you don't want obviously is when you start wet flattening, you're going to be taking the build of the colour off the panels. Now if you finish up with 1 nice wet coat of clear, then obviously the only thing that you're probably really going to be polishing off is the clear and not the colour. So if you polished a little bit too hard on an edge, or maybe you're just not quite confident enough for polishing, then finishing it off with a final coat of clear just gives you that extra little bit of protection. And on bike panels, obviously things like the tank and these side panels, and even that the very back panel where you've got a passenger coming on and off the motorbike, it's all sort of common areas that want that little bit of extra protection. So rather than it damaging the colour itself, if it does damage anything, it'll just maybe mark the clear coat, which then we could flat and polish up in the future if needed be, or you know, it won't actually be damaging the colour itself. The same when you're washing it or anything like that. You know, all these things aren't going to be coming into direct contact with the direct gloss colour. They're all going to be coming into contact with the clear coat, which is going to be a lot less susceptible to fading and that sort of thing over time. So you're going to end up with on average a better finish and a better durability to what is not a cheap respray, because these panels have all been done properly, but using like a 2K gloss for this, we could, I mean, half a litre of 2K gloss, it's probably like, I don't know, 15-20 quid's worth of paint that we use for this, and then 1 coat of clear coat, which again is not a lot. It wasn't a lot of clear coat at all, just to give this 1 coat, as opposed to if I did this in base coat, I'd need quite a lot of base coat to make sure this was fully covered up. You know, it wouldn't just be like 2 straight coats like this. Base coat also has its disadvantages, say if you're using solvent, that these are quite old panels because they're often old Kawasaki GPZ, like the old Top Gun bike. So something that old may have been played around with a few times, and say if you're using solvent, it might be quite prone to reacting with some of the paint that's obviously underneath the primer or anything like that, and we could end up with fry-ups or paint reactions and all sorts going on. Whereas 2K gloss tends to be pretty, I'd say, what's the best way of putting it? It tends to be pretty easy when it comes, and pretty forgiving when it comes to paint reactions and that sort of thing. I've never once put 2K gloss down and had any sort of frying up or any sort of issues putting it over older paint. Obviously, as long as you know your prep process and your primer and everything's good, then you shouldn't have any issues really whatsoever using a direct gloss. And then, as I've said before, it's quite cheap and cost effective compared to doing a base coat and clear coat. It's not really going to take me much more time in the booth. Like if I was doing this in water base and then clear coating it, you know, I'd probably be into 50 quid's worth of base coat, and then a lot of time drying all this down. A lot more time in the booth as well. You know, all these things add up. So for me, when you're doing a set of panels like this, where a customer wants a really nice tidy up job, but you just want to give it that little bit extra for your customer, or maybe it's like these, you know, these are from a business partner on the powder coating side's dad, then you're just giving it that little extra bit of TLC for them, because obviously you want it to be nice. And plus, we want it to be nice as a shot when we put it out as well. So that little extra stage of 1 coat of clear coat really can, or really does to me, make quite a difference. Now I quite often do this. I put up a video not long back on how best to blend 2K gloss, and that was using clear coat as the final little bit to use as a clear bridge between the new colour and the old colour. And it does work quite well, because obviously, I mean, theoretically, 2K gloss and 2K clear coat, the only real difference between the two, especially when you're coming to spray it, I used to struggle spraying 2K gloss because I thought I can spray base, I can spray clear, I can spray primer, but 2K gloss is a completely different material. Well, in essence, you need to attack 2K gloss like you would clear coat. You just want 2 real nice wet coats. You want to put it on like you're putting clear coat on, and don't try and think that it's completely different product in effect. Think of it as clear coat but with the colour already in it, and just go in the booth and smash it on. Now, I just showed the first coat of the direct gloss because it'd be run on quite a long time if we show both coats of that. And I've now moved on to the Multimix 2, and this is the HS Clear from Multimix. I had the pleasure of being able to meet Jordan at the weekend at the Refinishing show, and we had a little bit of a chat about showing this because a lot of you guys have been asking about it. So, just while I'm getting to grips with it, I thought I'd use it a little bit before, obviously, I'll make my final thoughts and do a little bit of a review video on it. Now, this, again, it doesn't need thinners in it. This is a straight 2-to-1 mix and can be used straight from the tins, straight into the gun. Especially at the moment, it's quite warm over here, so it's more than thin enough to be spraying straight out. Now, so far from using this, one thing that I've noticed is as it goes down, it does almost look like it goes down quite peely, but you need to resist the urge to overload this clear coat. It really doesn't need to be overloaded. It's got a very, very good solids content, and because of that, I think that's why it just takes that little bit longer to flow out. So you might put it on the panel and it doesn't look instantly glassy like some clear coats can, but just take your time, step back, just give it that little bit of time to flash off and flow out, and it really does flow out really nice and really flat.
So if you are putting your first coat on or your second coat on and it's looking a little bit peely, if you know that your gun settings and you're confident in what you're doing, just genuinely just take a little step back and just wait, and it will level out and flow out and flash off and flatten out as it does. And I have to say, for the price of this clear coat, it seems so far to be extremely nice. The multi-clear one that they first came out with was a very good all-round clear. This multi-clear 2, I have to say, is on par, if not better, than a lot of clears that I've used. You've got stuff like Max Mero 300 on the market, which I suppose is in the same sort of price bracket as this, and this stuff wipes the floor with it. As far as the application goes, I haven't had any issues with it popping or anything like that. You can put it on in a nice wet coat, get a nice wet finish, and it's very effortless to spray as well. It seems just generally a very nice clear to use and spray and get in the booth with. And even from the gun point of view, if you look at the gun, you can tell it's just atomizing out of the gun extremely nice. It's not sort of thick and stodgy and not atomizing very well like some clears can. It's really atomizing nice and fine, which is obviously going to help the lay down on the clear coat as well. So everything as far as this clear coat goes does look extremely nice. But as I said, I will do a more in-depth review in the future. And just in case any of you guys are looking to try some new clear coat or interested in this clear coat, I will leave a link in the description of this video to this clear coat available from our sponsors at SP Supplies, and also the rest of the multi-mix range that they have in stock. So we're coming to the end now of this one coat of clear coat. Now I wouldn't recommend putting 2 over it, because we don't want to overload the panel by putting 4 coats of something on there that needs to cure through. I think 2 coats of the gloss, 10 minutes in between, and then a coat of the clear coat is enough. And you can tell by the finish there, I've got the camera as close as I could, and I used my new Sony ZV-1 DSLR for this, so we could get right up close and personal with these panels. You can see that it's nice and wet. It's got an extremely nice gloss. It's got a good deep shine to it. Everything looks really nice and flat. There's 1 or 2 little nibs, but nothing at all really to worry about. A quick little polish on these, and these will look absolutely stunning and almost make this bike look like brand new again. The colour is Ford Medina Green. It's colour that the customer themselves chose. I have to say, it's quite a nice colour. I say it's a touch lighter in person than it comes through on camera, but again, an older bike like this, it'll suit it nicely, and the finish throughout is nice and flat and just how we want it.
So that is pretty much my process as far as using a direct gloss on something like this goes. I prefer using a direct gloss for something like this rather than over a base and clear. It's quick, it's easy, and that last coat of gloss is just going to help seal everything down and just make it a little bit easier as well for you guys that are a bit worried about polishing through on edges and stuff like that, because obviously with the coat of clear over there, you've got that extra bit of added protection between the colour and obviously the elements, or something like a bike tank, obviously when you're sitting on the bike and you got your leathers rubbing on it. But also when you come to the polishing stage, you've got that extra layer there just to give you a little bit of room, a little bit of wiggle room as far as things go on the polishing side. But overall, everything's come out really nice. Pretty clean. There's 1 or 2 nibs here and there, but nothing that I'm overly worried about. Most of it's like this mudguard here. It's extremely clean, extremely nice. It's got a nice gloss to it. Everything's looking really well. Now the clear coat that I used for the final coat, as I said in the voiceover section, was the Multi-Mix 2. I have to say it's done a very nice job on that final coat of clear. It was a straight 2-to-1 mix with no thinners in it whatsoever, just a straight 2-to-1 with a 10-minute flash off time between finishing the last coat of gloss and shooting the clear, and then that just gives you that real nice last little bit of a wet look, and also, like I said, it just gives you that extra little bit of protection on your final coat. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, guys. That's going to be it for me for this week, and I'll see you again soon for the next one. Bye for now.